I'm Jim Morningstar, and this is an introduction to Returning to Source, a journey of breath and intention. What is Source, and why return to it? Our challenge in this course is how to incisively address our most primal human challenges with loving intention and conscious breathing in a 9-session journey home. So I am thrilled to have my longtime colleague and friend of 20 years, Binnie Dansby, who is an international breathwork trainer of over 30 years, originator of Source Process and Breathwork, and Source Ecstatic Empowering Birth, share some of her wisdom and experience on the topic of returning to Source. Welcome, Binnie.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, share a little bit, if you would, Binnie. What is Source for you, and how have you addressed the challenges of returning to Source personally and professionally?
Well, calling my work Source, Process, and Breathwork evolved over almost 20 years because I started out in rebirthing in 1975 in New York City. And that session blew me in.
Yes.
That first session and at that time it was only in the water with a snorkel. I deepened into a non-ordinary state. I literally came out of the tub, curled up in Alana Linz's lap. When I became conscious of what I was saying, I heard, I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do it. Well, it makes me want to cry right now. And I realized that my whole operating system for 35 years had been coming from, I've done something wrong. I'm guilty. I was a good person. I was a great citizen. I was a mommy. I had a big career at the time. But behind that, I was carrying guilt in my essence of being. And it literally was my beginning. It fascinated me that this was possible to remember. And so I started my journey right there. Within a very short time, I was in the tub having a breath session. I suddenly came up and I heard for the first time, I have to take this to pregnant women and laboring women. She said, what? And I said, this, the way my body feels right now, is the way I felt when I was in labor the first time. And it terrified me, absolutely terrified me. And if I can take this process to pregnant women, they can feel this before they go into labor. Well, 5 years later, my personal journey had taken me out of that career, moved to California, and I met the couple. Well, I worked with them in couple counseling and breath work, and then they gave birth into water the first time. And so we put together that preparation for that birth, and we had great shifts in consciousness because nobody wanted to support it, no legal person. My professional journey has been determined by my personal in-depth study of my own consciousness. And yes, I've taken a lot of courses, done a lot of work around counseling and psychology. But my greatest teacher has been birth itself, because after that first water birth, I was asked to do a birth preparation program. I had no idea. One woman wanted to have a water birth when she heard about this one. And that turned into quite a large class called the Conscious Birthing Program in Los Angeles. And going to births, being with pregnant, laboring women and their partners, and receiving the babies and receiving communications from them. I think when you start working deeply with the breath and releasing fear of the sensations in your physical body, quite literally, the fear that I think was engendered at birth and even before in mother's fear of birth, going back to source, which for me is our origin. Source is where things spring from. That in some cultures, a spring is a source. And for some, it's the sun. And I think both are water and photosynthesis and the heat and the light of the sun are the source of life on the planet. Source for me is original, origin, going back there, uncovering, not for the purpose of beating ourselves up or mom and dad did it wrong or anyone has done it wrong, but going back there to see how can we evolve consciously. What have been the results? Just as I was telling you, just written a book on this subject about the impact of what I call the source experience, which is conception, pregnancy, birth, which is the big event, but also then how we are impacted in the download period, which is the first 2 years. So that's what I'm encompassing and calling. For many years, I called all of that birth. With the input of my writing partner, Lynn Thorson, we have chosen to call that the source experience.
Okay, beautiful. How did breath come to be discovered as integral to this source experience?
Imagine what was going on for you when you took your first breath. We had been water mammals. We're water mammals inside mother. Everything is taken care of in the womb by the placenta. The brain, the heart, and the nervous system are the only major systems that are functioning. The way we've been birthing babies for over 100 years now, we get them out, expect them to breathe immediately, and if you're startled into taking your first breath, you take in 4 to 5 times more oxygen than your body's ever experienced, and it opens the lungs. They're just like little flaccid balloons in there. It's like an explosion. Well, then, immediately, valves open, other ones close in the heart, and the circulatory system begins to come online. And the liver, the stomach, all of the major organs come online then. Can you imagine? We expect our babies to boot up faster than we do our computers because we hardly take that first breath and they cut the umbilical cord, cutting off a third of our blood supply for starters, but also our supply of oxygen and nutrients. So very few of the people in civilized, developed society have had the opportunity to come to the breath, to breathe gently and slowly and allow the body to come into this atmosphere. We're landing on planet Earth for the first time with this body. The first breath is the most important breath because what we do then, if we're startled into it and we are causing an explosion, is we shut down. And we shut down right here in this area that we call the heart chakra. But it's also where the lungs are. And it's like, are you going to do that ever again? That first breath is your first autonomous act. It's the very first thing you do on your own. And if it caused pain, not going to try that again, not fully. So breathing fully, going through the guidance of a breath worker who understands this and who is assuring the person that they are safe and supported, that they can re-experience the intense energy and come through to integrate all of that energy so that we have it to use. And so we can take deep breaths.
Binnie, it's really evident how your experience has led to an explosion of creativity and service in the world. In your professional experience, what have you seen breathwork do for other adults, people who've had different experiences like cesarean or premature birth? Or how has breathwork made a difference in people's lives that you've witnessed in your professional work?
Oh my goodness. Each of the 8 chapters in my book, for instance, our book, Lynn's and my book, each of the 8 chapters is followed by a personal sharing about the impact of birth and the impact that source, process, and breathwork has had in their lives. Some in business, some in personal deep healing, quite literally. I am remembering right now one woman whose collapsed lung inflated, that we brought that back. I've had many people in my trainings heal themselves of cancer, which has been deeply moving, and then others who haven't. But beautiful healing in MS also. There's a doctor in Sweden who specializes in MS and sent 3 different people over the years to my Danish training because she believes very strongly in working with the breath to enliven the nervous system. Families coming together, the impact goes across generations. It's never too late to have an ideal birth.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it also doesn't matter what the issues are. This is about the creative process. The foundation for the creative process in man, woman, is to conceive something, have an idea, give it energy, and you bring it into form. And that, yes, fundamentally is how we get ourselves in here, but it also continues to be how we operate creatively.
So it's a lifetime experience, not just a one-time event. It Absolutely. Is what engages our creativity and makes us one with the creator, if you will. And it is so evident that you embody that, Binnie. I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for not just sharing your words, but sharing your enthusiasm as it as it comes out.
Thank you, Jim.